Hello, my name is Elizabeth Hepher and I'm a paper conservator working with the archive at Historic Environment Scotland. This presentation will describe the steps taken to investigate a mystery photoreproduction with special reference made to how stable it may or may not be when exposed to light. The archive at Historic Environment Scotland, the national record of the historic environment, has numerous examples of different photoreproductions from a range of dates in its expansive collection that covers subjects such as architecture, archaeology, and maritime heritage. These, however, can be difficult to identify and can vary in their stability and aging characteristics. Most notably, some types are well known to be highly sensitive to light and are therefore routinely not selected for exhibition, as the risk and the fear of fading is too great. The Sir Basil Spence Archive is a huge collection spanning the architect's life from his schoolboy days in Edinburgh right through his prolific and successful career as one of the UK's most celebrated architects. In 1951, he won the competition to design a new cathedral in Coventry, England. Alongside a huge number of original graphite, ink, and charcoal drawings, numerous examples of photoreproductions can also be found. There are cyanotypes, diazotypes, and photostats, and a few reproductions that I had not come across in my career so far. So this is the mystery object that triggered my research and was prompted by a simple question from one of my colleagues. Our loans manager asked, "We've had a loan request for this object. Do you think that's okay? How long can we display it for? And oh, by the way, do you know what technique it is?" The support is an overbeaten transparent paper. The recto is a black medium, although printed on the verso so is viewed through the transparent paper support. It lacks the clarity of a hand-drawn line and is obviously a copy, but not one I was familiar with. And the verso is gold. I'd never seen this technique before. And how stable is it to light? Can it be exhibited? I did a little bit of asking around, and no one I spoke to had ever seen this technique before. Through a colleague, I heard from a retired architect who had worked with Basil Spence, and he said, "I am sure the gold backing to the tracing paper was just a way of intensifying the black when dye line printed. So perhaps a dye line or a diazotype. Well, this technique would definitely be vulnerable to fading in light, so I had to find out more." Here is a detail of the corner of the object folded over, so you can see both the recto in black and the verso in gold at the same time. And here is another detail of the verso with the iridescent gold colour shining in the top left. Here is a microscope image of the media. The black is granular in nature, and the verso with gold is reminiscent of a picture a child would do with glue and glitter. My first instinct was hesitancy to recommend it could be displayed. Are photoreproductions not all very sensitive to light? I reached out to the National Galleries of Scotland and was grateful they were able to offer to test the object with their microfader. This scientific analysis is used to assess the chemical stability of pigments or dyes present in a selected work of art under exposure to light. Microfading uses a tiny spot of very intense light as a probe to measure colour changes in individual objects using a colour difference formula. Comparison is then made to the blue wool scale of fading. The black medium was tested in two positions that you can see here. In this microscope image here, within the yellow circle you can see the dimension of the tiny test area, which is between 0.3 and 0.4 millimeters. The white dot you can see is the incident light from the microfader, not a completely faded area. The gold on the verso was tested in a similar manner. Comparison is then made to the blue wool scale of fading. These are well categorised set of 8 physical swatches of blue dyed wool produced by the International Standards Organisation, of which blue wool 8 is the least light sensitive and blue wool 1 the most. The microfader analysis is very useful as it can measure the more subtle differences between the different blue wool standards. The results of the microfader analysis showed that the 2 areas of black and the 1 area of gold tested faded at a rate equivalent to blue wool 2.9 or better under the test conditions. The microfader can distinguish between blue wools 1 to 4, and so, reassuringly, this is at the more stable end of the range of lightfastness, blue wool 1 or worse to blue wool 3, for colorants described in the Commission of Illumination International Standard for Museum Lighting as having high responsivity to light. Keen to learn more about the media present, I was able to work with a colleague from the science team at Historic Environment Scotland. The analysis was carried out with their non-destructive portable X-ray fluorescent equipment, with the aim of determining the composition of the black ink media and the gold-coloured coating on the verso of the object. Three spot analyses were carried out on the plain paper and 3 sites on the black areas, the black being sampled through the transparent paper. 3 sites were also sampled on the gold medium on the verso. The results of the XRF analysis are presented in a spectra that indicates the elements present. In this example, the results from testing the black is shown. As the layers are all thin, the X-rays penetrate through the whole object, and consequently, the composition of each medium can only be determined by comparison with the other analyses. The results of the analysis showed that in the paper layer, the main chemical element detected was calcium, most probably present as a filler in the transparent paper. The gold-coloured material turned out to be brass, that is, copper and zinc. The black layer was sandwiched between the paper and the gold-coloured paint, so its composition had to be deduced by comparing spectra analysing all 3 layers. Cobalt is observed in the black ink. It is also possible that carbon is present in the ink, but cannot be detected by this instrument, as only elements heavier than sodium can be found. My first 2 lines of inquiry were supplemented by a good traditional literature search, and reading lots around the subject of photoreproductions, I finally found 2 sources that exactly described the type of copy I was looking at. In Maya Hamley's academic research project from 1985, I finally found a reference to a goldback process. A goldback process is a special version of the true-to-scale print, which became very popular for obtaining copy negatives from original tracings onto good quality tracing paper or tracing cloth. The gelatin process is used, but the image is applied with ink placed on the reverse side of the paper. And while still moist, fine bronze filings are scattered and adhere to the lines. Hence, these copies became known as goldbacks. And in Alcott Price's book, Line, Shade and Shadow, The Fabrication and Preservation of Architectural Drawings, I found the description. Additional adjustments could be made after the inked print was pulled. If the lines were weak and the print was to be used as a reproducible, they could be strengthened by covering them with bronze powder, which adhered to the wet ink. I had found my technique. The reproduction was a gel lithograph. So what is a gel lithograph? Well, it is an example of a photomechanical copy. It is produced by a 2-step process whereby a light sensitized intermediate print, such as a cyanotype or a blueprint, is used to prepare a lithographic pad. This is then inked and an impression taken. Reassuringly, if rendered in a pigment-based black ink, they can be considered very stable. Although they were slow and expensive to process, the advantage was that they produced a permanent and true-to-scale reproduction. To summarise the results of my research to date, the microfader analysis indicated that the media present were at the more stable end of the Blue 1 to 3 lightfastness scale. The conclusions drawn from this informed the decision that the object could indeed be displayed, and that the recommended light budget suggested the item is suitable for display for 2 years per decade at 0 to 80 lux. The duration of 2 years was defined by the quality and condition of the support in this case. The light level should be as low as possible, balanced with providing good visibility. It is worth noting, however, that the microfading is helpful as a risk assessment tool rather than predictive, so regular monitoring and condition checking of works on display has still to be carried out. Elemental analysis identified some of the media present, and a literature search helped identify the type of photoreproduction, which in turn provided more information about the object's resilience to light exposure. I'm happy to say that the results of my research will ultimately allow the display of this rarely exhibited item, and that in this instance, we do not have to fear fading. I would like to thank Kirsten Dunn and the National Galleries of Scotland for their expertise, the use of the microfader, and the interpretation of the results. Thank you also to Maureen Young and the Conservation Science team at Historic Environment Scotland for the use of their portable XRF device and help with the results. Andrew Nicol for his assistance in contacting the architectural manager at Basil Spence and Partners, and my lovely colleagues in the Paper Conservation Studio. Thank you for listening. I would love to get in touch with anyone who's had experience working with gold-backed gel lithographs. Please do get in touch. Thank you.